It started with a phone call. I swear, it's just a few days. My cousin Haley pleaded, "You won't even notice I was there. I'd just been promoted to event coordinator at a regional nonprofit, my first big break after years of being an assistant. I was heading to a 3-day conference in Boston, and I needed someone to feed my cat, Oliver, and bring in the mail. That's it. Nothing complicated. I'd planned to ask my neighbor, Mr. Feldman, like I always did. But then Haley called, and my mom got involved. She's your cousin, she said. Don't be selfish. She just needs a little space away from home. Haley had apparently been going through something with her mom again. What that meant, I didn't ask. Every year, it was a different crisis. Still, I felt that pressure. You know the one. The family means everything kind. The kind that makes you say yes when everything inside you says no. So I agreed. I gave her the keys, showed her how to warm up Oliver's food, told her not to use the guest shower since it was leaking a bit. She nodded, smiled, said, "Of course." 5 different times. "I'll treat it like a spa retreat," she joked. No worries at all. If only that had been true. The conference went smoothly, at first. Long hours. Networking dinners. I even got a shout out for the volunteer program I'd redesigned. But halfway through the second day, I got a weird call from the building manager. "Hi, Miss Gaines. There were some noise complaints from your unit." My stomach dropped. Noise? Like what kind? Music. Yelling. We weren't going to say anything at first, but now someone reported the hallway smelled like weed. I was stunned. I apologized. Told them I wasn't home, that my cousin was house-sitting. Promised to follow up. I texted Haley. No reply. I tried again. Nothing. It wasn't until late that night that she finally answered with, "Sorry, my phone died. Everything's fine. People are so uptight in your building, lol." I didn't laugh. Something in her tone, the too casual way she brushed it off, made my skin crawl. When I got back 3 days later, I didn't recognize my own apartment. The front door lock had scratch marks. My entry rug was stained with what looked like salsa. The living room reeked of smoke. Not cigarette, not weed. Something else. Burnt hair? Maybe plastic? And the coffee table, cracked straight through the middle. There were cups on the windowsill. A busted wine bottle. Under the couch. One of my paintings, an original I bought to celebrate my job, was gone. Just missing. And Oliver? He wouldn't come out from under the bed for hours. I called Haley. She didn't answer. So I left a message. What the hell happened here? She finally texted me back that night. "Girl, what are you talking about? I left it clean. Must have been like that before? Lol. Also, I think your cat scratched the couch." I stared at the message. Was she serious? She'd broken furniture, clearly had people over, and now she was blaming Oliver? I wanted to scream, but instead, I did something smarter. I opened my laptop, logged into the app I'd almost forgotten about. My security camera. A few months ago, after a package theft, I'd installed a discreet little cam in the corner of my living room. Motion triggered, cloud backed, quiet. It wasn't even hidden, just mounted above the bookshelf. Apparently Haley hadn't noticed. Or worse, didn't care. I hit play, and what I saw made my blood run cold. Friday night, 4 people walked in with her. One had a bottle in each hand. They set up a speaker and started blasting music. Saturday morning, a guy I didn't know walked around in my bathrobe. My robe. Saturday night, Haley stood on the coffee table. My coffee table, trying to twerk. It cracked beneath her. She fell. Everyone laughed. That wasn't even the worst of it. There were clips of them going through my kitchen drawers. One of them tried on my shoes. Another was holding my laptop. My work laptop. There were people I didn't know sitting on my furniture, leaving trash everywhere, spilling drinks like it was a frat house. And the whole time she smiled, laughed, acted like it was her. I copied the footage, saved it in multiple files, sent one to my email, one to the cloud, one to a drive I kept in my nightstand. Then I called her again. This time, she answered. "Oh my God! Why are you blowing up? I told you it wasn't a big deal. I didn't even raise my voice. I just said, I have everything. On video. Every second." There was silence. Then, "You're recording me? That's illegal. Not in my own apartment. With a camera you walked past 6 times." She hung up. The next week, I started getting texts from my aunt, her mom. "What did you do to Haley? She's sobbing. She says you're threatening her. Family doesn't treat each other like this." I didn't reply. Instead, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. I filed a civil claim. Property damage, breach of agreement, and emotional distress. The footage? Ironclad. Even the building manager offered a statement. He'd seen people going in and out. He smelled the smoke himself. I wasn't doing this to ruin her life. I was doing it to take back mine, to show her and everyone else that I wasn't a doormat, that you don't get to trash someone's home, lie about it, and walk away. It didn't take long for the fire to spread. The moment Haley realized I was serious about taking legal action, she did what every guilty person does. She played the victim. It started in the family group chat. I woke up to a flood of text. "Aunt Lydia, what is going on? Haley is beside herself. Uncle Greg, you're taking your own cousin to court? Over a couch? Mom, call me right now." I didn't. I just sipped my coffee and opened my email. My lawyer, Sims, had sent over the initial paperwork. The footage was neatly compiled. The claim had been reviewed. "Honestly," she said during our first call, "this is one of the clearest cases of residential misuse I've seen. You did everything right. No emotion, just documentation." It felt good to be believed. It felt even better to be respected. But the messages didn't stop. "Kayla, my older cousin, she said you planted the damage. Like, you broke the table yourself and blamed her? Planted the damage? Really?" I didn't respond. Because I'd learned something powerful. Silence makes liars panic. By that weekend, Haley had posted a long Instagram story about fake family members and clout chasers. "Some people only love you when they can control you," she said in a dramatic selfie video, red-eyed and sniffling. "I made one mistake, and now she's trying to ruin my life." There was even a photo of my cracked coffee table with the caption, "It was already broken. She's just trying to make me look bad." What she didn't post? The part where she danced on it while holding a solo cup? The part where her friend laughed as it split? I still had the footage, still had the timeline, still had the truth. That Monday I sent her a courtesy message. "Since you've made this public, I want to be clear. All further communication will go through my attorney. I hope you get the help you need." She replied instantly. "You're sick. You're literally tearing the family apart. You've always been jealous of me." That last one actually made me laugh out loud. Jealous? Of her? I had a job, a life, an apartment that wasn't wrecked from the inside out. What did she have? A fake online persona and a handful of pity followers. Then came the call. From my mother. I ignored it twice before she finally showed up in person. I opened the door and there she was, holding a Tupperware of casserole like that would soften the blow. "Can we talk?" I let her in, but I didn't let her take the moral high ground. Not this time. She sat on my freshly cleaned couch and looked around. "You fixed it up nice." "I had to. Your niece destroyed it." There was a pause. Then she did what she always did. Tried to guilt me into letting it go. "Haley's had a rough year." "So did I said flatly. "But I didn't throw parties in someone else's home and lie about it. She's family. So am I." Funny how that only matters when I'm the one expected to forgive. That shut her up. Then she hit me with the real reason for the visit. "Your aunt's asking if you'll drop the case. They're worried about her record." There it was, not concern for me, not outrage at the damage, not a single "how are you doing after all that," just fear of what it might look like for them. I stood up. "You can take the casserole and go." She looked stunned. "Excuse me. You heard me. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I just held the door open. For the first time in my life, I stopped being the one who begged for peace. I became it. Later that night, I got a message from my dad. He doesn't talk much, doesn't usually get involved in family drama. But he wrote, "Just saw the footage. Proud of you. You deserve better." Simple. But it meant more than all the casserole in the world. The court date was set for 3 weeks out. During that time, Haley escalated. More posts. More sob stories. She even tried messaging my friends to explain her side. One of them, James, sent me screenshots. She said you forged the footage. She doesn't even understand how cloud backups work, I replied. In the meantime, I worked with Miss Sims to tighten every detail. Receipts for the broken table. Vet bills for Oliver's anxiety after the incident. Proof that I'd left her basic instructions and that she'd acknowledged them in texts. When we put it all together in a binder, it was thicker than a college textbook. She's not just reckless, Miss Sims said. She's careless and confident no one will ever hold her accountable. Until now, I said. The night before court, I barely slept. Not because I was scared of losing, but because I was terrified of seeing her, of what she'd say, how she'd twist it, how our family would look at me. But when I closed my eyes, I remembered the footage. I remembered the mess, the lies, the disrespect. I remembered Oliver trembling under the bed for hours, and I remembered the silence I sat in afterward, wondering if maybe, somehow I deserved this. That thought lit a fire in me, because I didn't. And I was going to prove it. The courthouse smelled like bleach and old paper. I sat outside the small claims courtroom, clutching a folder with every receipt, screenshot, and time-stamped frame from the security footage. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from focus, from readiness. Across from me, Haley sat in a chair with her arms crossed and her hoodie pulled up like she thought it could shield her from reality. Her mom, my Aunt Lydia, was whispering furiously in her ear, probably telling her to cry, apologize, beg, who knows. She looked at me once. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just looked back, blank, calm, done. The bailiff called our names, and we walked into the room. Small claims court isn't like the dramas you see on TV. No yelling, no dramatic gasps, just a judge, a table, and the facts. And thank God, because I had plenty of those. The judge, a stern woman with kind eyes, listened quietly as my lawyer laid out the claim. Miss Sims started with the agreement. My client allowed Ms. Haley Thomas to stay at her apartment for 72 hours, solely to care for a pet and bring in the mail. No guests, no parties, no damage. She showed the texts where Haley agreed to those terms. Then she handed over photos, the broken table, the stained rug, the missing painting, and the vet bill for Oliver. Haley's side remained silent. No photos, no documentation, just crossed arms and a glare. Then came the main event. Sims placed a USB on the table. We'd like to play 2 minutes of footage from the in-home camera system, time-stamped during the stay. The judge nodded, and the screen lit up. There she was. Haley. In my living room, laughing, drinking, turning the music up while someone sprayed whipped cream across my kitchen counter like it was a frat house stunt. The judge blinked, then paused the video. "Miss Thomas, is this you?" Haley didn't speak. Her mother nudged her. "Yes," she mumbled. "And is this the table in question?" "Yes. So you acknowledge this was not broken before your stay?" Silence. "Miss Thomas? I didn't mean to," she said finally, arms still crossed like a sulking child. "It was an accident. But you didn't report it to the owner?" No answer. It didn't take long after that. Miss Sims wrapped up with my receipts, costs of repair, replacement, emotional distress, and then stepped back. "This is not about punishment," she said clearly. "It's about accountability. My client trusted family. That trust was broken, and now she's here asking the court to help her make that right." Then it was Haley's turn. Her lawyer, a cheap family friend, judging by the wrinkled folder and awkward stammer, tried to claim the damages were minimal and exaggerated. He even tried to say that I should have known letting someone stay in my apartment came with risk. The judge raised her eyebrow. So, you're suggesting that the homeowner is at fault for allowing a family member to stay without expecting destruction? He stuttered. I'm saying it wasn't malicious. The judge leaned back. Intent doesn't negate consequence. Finally, the judge asked if Haley had anything she wanted to say. She stood, arms still crossed, face red. She's always hated me. A few heads turned. She's always been jealous. She's perfect and smug, and she thinks she's better than me. I blinked. That's what she chose to say? And like she had a camera. That's so invasive. Like who does that? The judge nodded slowly. I see. So instead of apologizing or taking responsibility, you're upset that you got caught. Dead silence. After that, it was over. The judge ruled in my favor. Full damages ordered. And for the record, Ms. Gaines, this court finds you acted with remarkable restraint. I hope your cousin learns something from this. I nearly cried. Not from victory, from validation. For once, I wasn't being told to just let it go. I wasn't being guilted for tearing the family apart. Someone saw the truth, and it mattered. When we stepped out of the courtroom, Aunt Lydia stormed up to me. You should be ashamed. Haley is traumatized. I stared at her. So was my cat. She scoffed. You've embarrassed this whole family. No. Haley did that. I just played the tape. I walked away. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. Later that week, I got a check from the court settlement. It didn't make up for everything she ruined, but it paid for a new rug, a better couch, a stronger lock on my front door, and one more thing, a second camera. Not because I was paranoid, because I learned something. People who feel entitled to your space will always hate your boundaries, so you protect your space anyway. And as for Haley, she tried to spin the story online, said I was unforgiving, petty, obsessed with control. But people aren't stupid. They know the truth when they see it, especially when it's in 1080p. Tom stamped it. And backed by a judge. After the ruling, the apartment finally started to feel like mine again. I cleaned everything twice over, rearranged the furniture, got new curtains, and for the first time in weeks, Oliver jumped up beside me again, tail flicking, purring like he hadn't in days. It was quiet, but it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt safe. But outside that little apartment, the silence didn't last. The judgment had landed like a thunderclap across the family. And just like thunder, it was followed by a long, rolling storm of gossip and side-taking. Mom called. Again. You've made your point, okay? Now can we just move on? Your aunt won't speak to me. She can call her daughter and complain. Sweetheart, you sued family. That's not how we do things. I took a breath. Maybe you don't, but it's how I do things when someone breaks into my space, lies about it, and tries to destroy my name. But you're tearing the family apart. No, Mom. She did that the moment she thought partying in my home was her right. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She hung up. For once, I didn't call back. The next few days were weird. I'd bump into relatives at the store, or see their names online, and it felt like walking through fog, like everyone was whispering, choosing sides. But the people who mattered, they showed up. Kayla, my older cousin, the one who called out Haley even before the court, sent me a text. Just wanted to say I'm proud of you. If someone had done to my place what she did to yours, I'd be in jail right now. We met up for coffee. She listened as I talked through the detail, not to gossip, but because I needed someone who wouldn't say just move on. You've always been the nice one, she said. Too nice. I think this scared them. You finally had enough. I'm not proud it came to court, I said quiet, but you should be proud of yourself for seeing it through. And I was. That weekend, I decided to post something not out of pettiness, not revenge, just truth. A short video, just me. No names, no footage, no drama, just a quiet message. If someone damages your space, violates your trust, and then blames you for standing up for yourself. You are not the problem. Boundaries are not betrayal. And family doesn't mean tolerance without limits. It got more likes than I expected. More comments. People, strangers, sharing their own stories about cousins who stole from them, aunts who gaslit them, siblings who crossed lines and never apologized. One message stood out. Thank you. I've never heard anyone say it's okay to protect yourself from family. I needed that today. I cried reading it. Because I needed it too. For so long, I'd been told that family is everything, that you don't air dirty laundry, that forgiveness is mandatory. But that's not love. That's emotional blackmail wrapped in a Hallmark slogan. Haley, of course, didn't stop. A few days later, someone forwarded me a TikTok she posted. She was crying again, telling her followers about her evil cousin who ruined her life with hidden cameras. I didn't respond. Not online, not offline. I didn't need to. Because the people who knew me, really knew me, weren't fooled. But even through all of this, there was still one message I hadn't responded to, from Aunt Lydia. Please, can we talk? I hadn't answered it for weeks. But one morning, curiosity or closure got the better of me. So I invited her over, told her to come by Sunday, told her I'd give her 20 minutes, no more. She arrived dressed like she was attending a funeral. No makeup, no jewelry, just puffy eyes and a tissue in her hand. You look tired, I said. I haven't slept. Haley's still crying. I didn't say anything. She's been getting hate messages. Maybe she should have thought about that before lying online. She's only 23. I was 24 when she broke my furniture and accused me of making it up. We all grow up at different speeds. She didn't argue. Instead, she asked a question I didn't expect. Why did you go so far? Because I kept not going far enough. I let that sit. Then I pulled out a list, printed. Neat. Every time I'd let something go. The time Haley stole my clothes and said I left them at her house. The time she forgot to pay me back for a shared Uber and then posted about buying new boots. The time she spread a rumor about me dropping out of school when I was hospitalized for stress. This wasn't about one broken table, I said softly. It was about all the times I was told to take it, to be the bigger person, to forgive, and how being nice nearly made me lose everything I've built. She didn't cry. She didn't argue. She just stood up. You won't come to Thanksgiving, will you? No. But thanks for asking. She left without another word. And you know what? I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I didn't go to Thanksgiving. I didn't send gifts that year. I didn't even reply to the mass family text about New Year's. I spent the holidays at home, with Oliver curled up beside me, a mug of cocoa, a playlist I loved, my own little corner of peace, and I smiled, because I finally realized protecting my peace doesn't make me cold. It means I finally value it. And I didn't need anyone's permission to do that. After Thanksgiving came and went without a single call or invitation from the family. I thought maybe the storm had passed, but I should have known. Haley wasn't done. She didn't get her way in court. So now she was trying a different tactic, rewriting the story. It started small. She made a new private Instagram account, added all our extended cousins, shared raw healing posts about being ostracized by toxic people. She never said my name directly, but I knew it was about me. Everyone knew. One post showed a shattered photo frame, with the caption, "What they break isn't always furniture. Sometimes it's trust. Sometimes it's family." Another had a crying selfie with the text, "Being the scapegoat means carrying pain nobody wants to admit they caused." Kayla sent me screenshots with a single caption, "Girl, this is Oscar-worthy." I didn't respond publicly. I didn't need to, because I wasn't in the business of winning sympathy. I was in the business of living my life, and that meant building a better one without her. That winter I finally finished a side project I'd been putting off, a digital illustration series of apartment interiors and safe space. I called it Boundaries. Each drawing was a soft, glowing scene, a cozy reading nook, a closed door with warm light under it, a locked front door with a welcome mat that said, "Only if you're kind." I posted the series online, and it blew up. People started messaging me with their own stories of roommates who overstepped, relatives who crossed boundaries, partners who didn't respect space. And suddenly I wasn't just that girl who sued her cousin. I was that artist who captured something people had been feeling for years but couldn't name. I had a name now, and it wasn't Haley's cousin, it was mine. By spring, I'd opened an online shop, prints, stickers, tote bags with quotes like, "Peace is not passive. No is a full sentence. You don't need a permission slip to protect your energy." I even made one based on the court footage, a tiny cartoon couch with a crack down the middle and a caption that said, "You break it, you bought it." It sold out in 3 days. That's when the second storm hit. This time, not from Haley, from the rest of the family. My Uncle Greg called my mom, told her the whole family was sick of the drama, and it was uncomfortable to keep seeing merchandise online that mocked Haley's mistake. My mom, trying to stay neutral, passed the message along. "Maybe take the site down for a while." I laughed. "You want me to stop creating because they feel guilty? It's not about guilt. It's about unity." Then maybe they should have united around not lying in court. She didn't have an answer. What they didn't realize was, I wasn't selling spite. I was selling healing. Every sticker, every print, every word I shared. It wasn't about Haley. It was about me. Finding myself, reclaiming control. For the first time in years, I wasn't keeping the peace by sacrificing myself. I was choosing peace by making room for myself in the world. And yet, one part of me still struggled. Because no matter how successful I felt, no matter how proud I was of the work, there was still this small, aching question. What if they're right? What if I really am the problem? That voice crept in late at night, when the orders were packed and shipped, when the lights were off, when the noise died down. So I did something I hadn't done in months. I opened the old footage again, just 2 minutes. I watched her laugh. I watched her dance. I watched her snap a selfie in front of the broken table and shrug. And I remembered, I didn't start this. I just finished it. That's when I realized, the truth doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits quietly in your files, ready, waiting. And when someone comes for you, you don't have to shout back. You can hit play. So I made a new piece for my collection, a simple digital drawing of a hand holding a remote control. The title? Evidence. It went viral overnight. Spring became summer, and the air shifted. Not just outside, but around me. Orders for my art store were growing. Emails were coming in from wellness blogs and small publishers. One even asked if I'd like to do an illustrated collection on recovering from family betrayal. I was finally building something that belonged to me. No begging, no permission, just my own 2 hands, and a truth I refused to shrink anymore. But of course, Haley couldn't stand that. She didn't like that I'd moved on. She didn't like that my success wasn't about her. And that's when the last and nastiest wave hit. One morning, I opened my inbox to an anonymous tip, a screenshot, a Reddit thread. "Beware of this artist. She lies about family abuse to sell merch. She manipulated her cousin and took her to court just to gain followers. She faked the whole story for attention." My stomach dropped. Underneath were threads of strangers speculating about me, calling me a narcissist, a scammer, a clout chaser. And sprinkled through those threads, old usernames I recognized, some from high school, some from extended family, all the same language. She was always dramatic. She just wants sympathy. She's not the victim she pretends to be. It was so carefully crafted I almost believed it myself, but I knew where it was coming from. Haley, or someone close to her, was launching a whisper campaign, trying to turn my healing into a hoax, trying to twist my growth into manipulation. For a second I panicked. I thought about deleting the store, pulling the posts, backing away from the spotlight I hadn't even asked for. But then I remembered something. You only become a target when you matter, and silence was never protection. Not when I let her stay in my apartment. Not when I didn't press charges. Not when I gave her a dozen chances before court. So I didn't go quiet. I went clear. That afternoon, I posted a video. Simple, direct, to anyone seeing rumors about me. Yes, I went to court over what my cousin did. Yes, I won. Yes, I share my story through art. I didn't start this for sympathy. I started because I needed to feel like I existed, that my side of the story mattered. If you've ever had someone violate your space and then shame you for reacting, you are not alone. And you're not dramatic. You're a person with boundaries. And you deserve peace. It was shared 8,000 times in one day. Comments poured in. Thank you for this. My sister stole from me and my parents said I was ruining the family for speaking up. You helped me realize I'm not crazy for needing distance. They always call you dramatic when you stop playing along. I wasn't alone. And neither were they. By August, I got a DM from a community college. They were hosting a wellness and boundaries event. They asked if I'd speak. At first, I hesitated. I wasn't a therapist. I wasn't an expert. But then I remembered. I was the girl who cleaned up her own apartment after family destroyed it. I was the girl who held her ground in court without screaming. I was the girl who turned that pain into something other people could hold. So I said yes. The night before the event, I sat up in bed sketching. I drew a new piece, one that wasn't angry, one that wasn't sarcastic, just calm. A figure sitting cross-legged in the middle of a storm, raindrops falling, but not breaking them, lightning behind them, but they're still strong, still whole. I titled it, Unbothered Isn't Always Passive. Sometimes it's power. At the event, I shared my story, not to tear anyone down, but to build a bridge for every person in that room who had ever been made to feel like their pain was a performance. I told them, you can love people and still choose distance. You can be forgiving and still pursue justice. You can be kind and still say no. Boundaries don't make you mean. They make you safe. They clapped. And I didn't cry until I got to the car. That night, I received a final text from Haley. One line, "You happy now?" I stared at it, not with anger, with clarity. Because I was, not because she was upset, but because I wasn't afraid of her anymore. Not her lies, not her guilt-tripping, not her silence or her shouting. I finally understood. I don't owe silence to the people who hurt me. I didn't respond to Haley's message, not because I didn't have words, but because I finally understood something that took me years to learn. Not everything deserves an answer. Not everyone earns access to your peace. So I let her text sit there, unanswered, unread, unwelcome. After the event at the community college, something inside me softened. For so long I'd been carrying this tight, hard knot in my chest, like I had to constantly prove that I wasn't the bad guy, that I wasn't dramatic, that I wasn't too sensitive. But standing in that room, looking at real people, nodding through tears, I realized I didn't need to fight anymore. I'd already won. Not just in court, in life, in truth. It wasn't just about Haley anymore. It was about every person who ever made me question my own reality. Every family dinner where I was told to just let it go. Every time I was punished for reacting, while others were never held accountable for their actions. I thought I had to become hard to survive that. But now, I was learning that healing doesn't make you harder. It makes you lighter. I started working on a new collection. This one wasn't about boundaries. It was about freedom. The theme? Exit. Each piece showed a person walking out of a room, a house, a conversation, with their head held high. No tears, no screaming, just a quiet, powerful departure. One of the prints showed a girl closing a door behind her, with the quote, "You don't have to slam it, just lock it." That one sold out in hours. I was also starting to get messages from people in Haley's life, not her friends, not her defender, people who had once been close to her, and now were starting to see her clearly. One message said, "I used to think you were cruel. Now I think you were just the first one to leave." Another, I didn't believe you when you said she lied. But after what she did to me last month, I do now. I didn't gloat, didn't respond, just took a deep breath and kept living. Because the truth, I didn't need them to believe me anymore. I believed me. That was enough. Sometime in late August, I bumped into Aunt Lydia at the grocery store. She looked tired. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You look well," she said. I nodded. "I am." She looked down into her cart, then back at me. "Haley's moving back in with us." "Okay. She's not doing great." I stayed quiet. "I wish you two could talk." I finally spoke. "I think she had plenty of chances." She sighed. "You always were the strong one." And that hit different. Because she used to say I was the quiet one, the peacemaker, the pushover, but not anymore. Now I was the one who survived. A few weeks later, I did something I never thought I would. I invited Kayla and a few of my close cousins to my apartment. We sat around the table I'd bought to replace the one Haley broke. We drank iced coffee and laughed over stories. Some painful, some joyful, all honest. And for the first time in what felt like forever, my home felt like a safe place to share again. No pretending, no walking on eggshells, just peace. Before everyone left, Kayla leaned over and looked around the room. "You've really built something here." I smiled, because she wasn't just talking about the walls or the decor or the art. She meant me. I had built myself back up, piece by piece. After they tried to knock me down and blame me for the fall, that night, I sat with Oliver on my lap and opened a fresh notebook. I didn't draw anything. I just wrote a sentence on the first page. "You can't heal in the same place they broke you, unless you change the locks, repaint the walls and make it yours again." That's exactly what I'd done. I took back my space. I rebuilt my peace. And I never once needed their approval to do it. It's funny how the ending to a story doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it just gets quiet. Not in a sad way, not in a lonely way, but in a finally breathing again kind of way. By the end of the year, I had moved on, not just emotionally, but physically too. I found a new apartment in a quieter part of the city. More light, more space, and this peaceful silence that felt earned. I brought Oliver with me, of course. And the first night, he curled up beside me like we both knew this was ours. Not borrowed, not at risk, not shared with people who couldn't be trusted, just ours. I never spoke to Haley again, not after court, not after her message, not even after I got word through Kayla that she'd quietly started telling people we'd resolved everything privately. We had, but I didn't need to correct her, because I'd stopped living in her world. She could tell whatever stories she wanted. I had footage, I had peace, and I had a future that she wasn't in. The final touch to my healing came on a cold Saturday morning in November. An art studio in the city invited me to do a solo exhibit. They titled it Proof. It was perfect. The room was full of my pieces. The Boundaries series, the Exit series, and a new one called Survivor Rooms, each one drawn to resemble spaces that once felt unsafe, now transformed into sanctuaries. In the center of the room was one last print, a digital still of a paused security camera frame. You couldn't see faces, just the broken table, the couch, the mess. And below it, an elegant script: "Some people leave scars, others leave evidence." It stopped people in their tracks. During the Q&A, someone asked, "What would you say to someone who's afraid to speak up, especially against family?" I didn't even hesitate. Your pain matters, even if no one else in your family believes it. Silence doesn't keep the peace. It only protects the ones who hurt you, and you are allowed to protect yourself. Not later, not when it gets worse. Now. People clapped. A few cried, and I didn't feel scared or small or too dramatic. I felt free. That night, I walked home with Oliver in my carrier, the wind cold against my cheeks, the sky wide and open above me. For so long I thought justice meant making Haley feel what I felt. But I was wrong. Justice was this: walking home without fear, knowing I'd stood my ground, knowing she couldn't touch what I'd built. She'd tried to wreck my apartment, but she didn't wreck me. She just reminded me that some people don't deserve a key to your life, no matter what name they go by. I used to think family was sacred. Now I think family is earned. And mine is made up of friends who show up, cousins who see me, strangers who heard my story and said, "Same. Me too. You're not alone." That's my family now. And I'm not alone anymore. So if you've ever been blamed for protecting yourself, if you've ever been told to let it go while someone else ruins your space and your name, if you've ever been the villain in someone else's story for refusing to stay silent, let me say this: you're not wrong. You're not cruel. You're not the problem. You're just done. And sometimes that's the bravest thing you can be.